Hello, everyone. I'm Ellen Koronet of LNK Creative, and I'm stepping in on behalf of Ginny Robertson, the founder of On Purpose Woman Global Community. So it is evening. You'll have to forgive me if I stumble a little on my words. So, welcome to today's Connections After Hours gathering. This is an evening meeting from 7 to 8:30 and certain times of the month that Ginny Robertson puts on for women, not only in business, but women of all walks of life are welcome to come in. And now you're going to be able to watch this on YouTube as well or on LinkedIn. So thank you for being here with us. And we have a really interesting, insightful, and inspiring speaker panel tonight. We have four of us, and I will facilitate this. And we're going to hear from Joanne and Andrea and Cassandra, who I will introduce in a moment, on touch points in the customer journey. So customer journey mapping is a kind of a concept that came out of the online digital world a while back, and it's used in large businesses all over the world to try to really understand how people come into your world of your brand and then walk through it with you. And in the case of entrepreneurs, like the three amazing businesses that are with us tonight, you have really their own journeys are part of this whole process. So we're going to talk about the different ways that you can touch on helping people come into your world and move through it. And even if you don't have your own business, you're part of a bigger organization, or you take part in other people's products and services, it might spark a little bit of an understanding of how you can expect to be treated when you begin to interact with an organization. So no matter how big or small they are, thriving organizations guide their best customers through this kind of a journey so that there's mutually beneficial outcomes on both sides. So each one of our panelists tonight is really familiar with their particular journey, and this is really personal for us because they've been uncovering a unique experience that they now are inviting you to join them with. So we're going to explore some of the best practices around some of the key touch points that optimize that experience from when you get curious about a business or product or a service, when you discover it, when you're welcomed into it, you try something, and then maybe you want to buy something. And then once you've had some of that experience, you begin to process, is this working for me? And do I want more? And should I tell other people about it? Our speakers are going to focus on these kinds of touch points. So we're going to start. I'm going to introduce each of them, and then we'll come back around, and each one will answer some questions about a certain part of the journey. So we're going to start with Joanne Young Elliott, who is a life coach, a spiritual guide, a writer, and a poet. And she dives into the wisdom of nature, of the ages, and I'm really curious about what that means, and of her own experience to connect and synthesize so that others can experience lives enriched by becoming more of themselves through a willingness to transform. So, Joanne, can you tell us a little bit more about what you do and why you do it?
Well, I mostly help women and women who are basically ready to prioritize themselves and, really reconnect with who they are. Maybe they've gotten lost along the way. Um, and, the wisdom, of the ages to me means a lot of things, but I majored in English and philosophy. So it's like, it could be philosophy. It could be, the ancients, had so much wisdom, I think, just from just connecting to the earth and to themselves. And I guess that's what I aspire to do and help women do the same.
Beautiful. Thank you. So our next panelist is Cassandra Herbert, who is a holistic nurse, health and wellness coach, herbalist, former psychotherapist, ooh, and creator of Zest and Harmony. She is passionate about shifting healthcare from sick care to true wellness, and she empowers individuals to embrace medicines of the earth and lifestyle changes. I think there's some themes here. Tell us a little bit more about what you do, Cassandra.
Yes. So it's really supporting the woman, the busy professional woman, the woman who works 9 to 5, that woman who's just doing and doing and doing and has forgotten about herself and taking care of herself and nourishing herself. And we can go deep on that, on the reasons for that, but it's also how it shows up in their body, because a lot of that is overwhelm and stress, which causes inflammation and dis-ease. And so what I'm doing is supporting them, educating them on how they can decrease the stress, which will decrease the inflammation, which will decrease current dis-ease or the risk for dis-ease.
Beautiful. Thank you. Boy, do we need that. Don't you think? And our next panelist is Andrea Hylen, founder of Heal My Voice and The Incubator, which is an online co-working space for women creatives. Andrea is devoted to healing intergenerational trauma with creative expression and as an ancestral lineage healing practitioner. Let's hear more about that.
Well, I'm going to tell it to you in a little different way, in a lasered way. Right out of college, I was in academia for 10 years. And then I gave birth to a son who had a congenital heart defect and ended up dying 19 months later. And that created a change in the trajectory of my life to be a stay-at-home mom who homeschooled her kids. Heal My Voice came after the death of my husband with this desire to hold space for women to write about their experiences and reclaim the power that was tied up in trauma, loss, and grief. And so everything that I create now is about this healing of intergenerational trauma to then have the power and amplify the blessings in your life and step into sharing that in the world. So I like to hold space for whatever comes out of those creative juices. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay. So we're going to start with Joanne is going to, we'll give each of us about 3 minutes. Don't worry about the exact time. Um, and so think of this sort of like a little game board, like where you get your little piece and you come in. And at the very beginning of the process, Joanne is going to tell us a little bit about what happens when you are networking, when you're introducing your unique program or your offer in a way that invites curiosity and compels follow up. And this would be for people you may never have met before, or maybe you only met them once or twice. So, um, how do you encourage them to want to get to know more? How do you pique that curiosity and get the right people to be interested in getting to know more about you and what you offer?
Well, I'd like to, I guess I would just want to say like story is it. Story covers like all of that. And so like when I meet someone through a networking situation, like however we're talking one-on-one, um, I usually start by asking them about their journey, their story, and what brought them to where they are now. And I want to truly hear their story. And there's a saying that I love that is the most interesting people are the people most interested in others.
Mhm.
And so that's how I try to show up, to be really curious and present and open. And so taking that to the next level, like of online marketing, um, I share stories from my own journey. And it kind of comes from Oh, let me just share, like when I became a spiritual guide, when I did the training to become a spiritual guide, the curriculum actually encouraged us to stay professional and not share our personal stories. But my teacher and mentor pushed back on that because she believed, like I do, that sharing our stories help others feel safe and seen and less alone, right? So that's basically why I lead with story. It's a way of inviting people into connection. So when I share my experiences, like the hard stuff I've been through and the insights that I've gained, it's not about being the expert or having it all figured out. It's about showing people what's possible. And it's about letting them know you're not the only one. Because I've always found that really powerful and healing in and of itself to me. So that's, that kind of transparency that builds trust. It helps people relate. It gives them a window into into who I am and what I value and how I can help without me needing to sell anything. It's, the know, like, trust factor. And I really think that the stories can build it faster and more authentically than, say, your elevator pitch. And for me, stories carry more than information. They are like little capsules of wisdom and soul and connection. And when someone sees themselves in your story, they start to imagine a new story for themselves. So that's why I think story is really powerful in not just connecting, but in building our businesses.
So I have a question, sort of a follow-up. So once you've begun to have that exchange, because that sounds like it's a wonderful two-way street, and let's say you're at a networking meeting, or maybe you've published a blog post or an article or something like that. How do you then encourage, the follow-up? Like, how do you keep going from there?
Well, I guess if someone reaches out, it's usually me then getting clear on their story. Like one of the things that I do is something I started calling it. It's a discovery call, but I call it an insight and transformation call because that's what it really does. It really gives insights into what's really going on with them, what the real problem is, and then that in itself is transformation or can create a transformation. So whether they work with me or not, they get that little bit of feeling. So that's usually the next step is connecting to them and learning their story. Because I've shared mine now. I hope I open a space for them to feel safe to share theirs. And so that kind of discovery type call can really create it just feels like a next step. It's like it's sort of like when you're talking to someone in person, it's like you share their story, you ask them their story, they're going to usually ask you theirs. But if I share my story, then they'll feel safe to share. You know what I mean? It's kind of that connection. If that makes sense.
And it sounds like you're sharing with a purpose. You're not just sort of telling any old story around a
No,
campfire, right?
yeah, definitely sharing some of the stories connected to my why of why I help the women I do and the way I do and who I do help. And I do think about that, like purposely, like what is the trajectory of the story? Like what's the arc of the story? I was an English major, so it's like I really do kind of think about how it moves people um, and through an actual story structure. Um, yeah,
Okay, which gets into archetypes and the hero's journey and all of that,
yeah,
right?
yeah. There's
Awesome.
that. There's that deeper wisdom stuff.
Yes.
Yeah,
And I understand that you also do tarot as well, so you probably
yeah,
pull some of
yeah.
that.
Yeah. If people, so one of them is to get them into a discovery call, but sometimes I invite people to a tarot reading if they, and can use that as an inroads to maybe the discovery call afterwards. Um, because they're just like looking for insight. I find like people just really want like insight. Often they want to tell them what to do, but that's not kind of how I do the tarot. But but yeah, it's insight's everything. That's kind of where I start.
Beautiful. Okay, well, that's the beginning of the journey. And now we're going to move over to Cassandra, and we'd like to hear what happens in the middle of this customer journey as you're nurturing people through. Tell us a
Okay.
little bit more about that.
Yes. So my question is this somebody who has already decided to work with me, or am I doing the call to see if they want to work with me?
Yes, so once somebody has begun to engage with you and they're going through the process, the middle
Okay.
of the journey is, what happens when you begin to deliver how
Okay.
you set
Yeah.
the expectations, you begin to deliver what they thought they were going to
Right.
get, what happens when they don't necessarily, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Just making sure. So usually when a client has decided to work with me, what I will do is sometimes I will do it's depending because I have different things. So if it's one-to-one coaching or if it's group coaching, if it's one-to-one coaching, it's going to be, or consulting, because I do herbal consultations, it's going to be a welcome package, and sometimes maybe, even a welcome video that is telling them, what are the expectations. That is what they can expect from me as their coach, as well as what I expect for them as the client. And it's very clear. It's written down. I even have them sign it. I also have very much the things of, okay, this is the payment. I have different payment structures and payment plans. And if they miss a payment, different things like that. But there's that very concise written down communication. I have a whole, because I could be recommending herbs, and I could be recommending different foods and lifestyles. So there is what I call a loving disclaimer, on for them to check in with, their providers, their doctors, that I am not a a doctor. I'm not, also, like I said, I was a former psychotherapist. So I'm saying I am not a therapist, because coaching can go deep and it can feel like therapy. But if I'm feeling like that, so those are very clear guidelines that I am having them to review and to sign, and I'm signing it, and they're getting a copy of that. And that is virtual. I'm also giving them an opportunity if they have any questions, if they have any concerns, if they're not feeling like, okay, this is going to work with me or this doesn't resonate, how can we look at it to see if it can? But it also has to resonate with me, because I also have to, so there is that. And also, this helps to reduce any confusion, and it also empowers them to show up fully. So I'm also, asking them, like, what is it that they want to, what is their vision of what they want by the end, whether that's with me for, a 90-minute session, or whether that's 3 months, 6 months. What is their expectation of that? And then my expectation of, okay, this is how we're going to get there. Now, during that time, we're pausing, we're doing celebrations, like, each session at the beginning, I'm like, let's celebrate, we're tuning in. A lot of it is I actually, before sessions with clients, I actually really stop. And this is before I'm even getting on with them. I'm meditating, I'm taking a flower essence, I'm tuning into spirit so that I can really get that guidance. And it's not just about me. Yes, I have all the knowledge, but let me see if I can tune in. And that has been beautiful, because I'll get on and clients will be like, how did you know that? So, and they actually have appreciated that, like that intuitive, because I'm also teaching them how their body is wise, and if they listen to their body and they listen to their inner knowing. So there's a lot of that, you know, me connecting to source, me helping them connect to source, and bringing that into the session. The other thing I would say, that some of the systems that I use to support the journey is like you can use Zoom to take your notes, but I also use Phantom, which is a free service, and it takes the notes. I have Practice Better, which I can upload the session notes. And so that after the session, within 24 hours, the client is receiving that along with like next steps. So whatever, like if there's, I don't want to say homework because that can bring up a lot of things for people, but their tasks for the next time we meet and the different things. So they might be journaling questions, or there might be that. And also I offer text access, that if they're going through something or they have any questions that they can, and that is in my welcome packet of saying when and the hours that I am available. So it's just that this communication is is always happening throughout. And sometimes I'm like, I've done in the past, sent them, depending on how long they've signed up for to work with me, welcome gifts. Like a gift might be a journal, might be an herbal tea, might be different things that I like surprise them, because people love surprises. I mean, if you're at home and all of a sudden you go to your mailbox, it could be just a card that says something, and you get that from your coach. You're like, oh, I feel special. And it's really helping them to, feel like, yeah, I appreciate that you know, trusted me enough to work with you along your wellness journey. I don't take that for granted. I honor that, and I want to celebrate that. And I want to say thank you to them for doing that.
Wow, bravo. So I hear a lot of structured, the sort of contractual agreement, the setting expectations about, what do you want to achieve and how will we get there? And the gift giving, you've gamified your process like beautifully. That's really bravo. Bravo. And do you ever get pushback from people at any point along the way?
I have had sometimes push, but it's been more like, but it's funny. I don't look at pushback as negative. It's so interesting. Like, and it's been more like people haven't done like their journaling or something, but then we just look at that. Like, resistance is a part of healing. Like, okay, what's going on with this? Let's explore what's the resistance about. It's funny how you're being so hard on yourself. What is that? Is this something that's going on? It's so actually any pushback or resistance, we're exploring that. I don't look at it as a negative thing. I don't look at, even if people are just like, well, this isn't what I thought it would be. I don't think I've had that, but it might have been a little bit of form of that. But if they do, I'm going to look at and saying, okay, let's explore, and then bringing back to them what they thought it was and seeing like, okay, is this really this? And a lot of times I work with my clients for long periods of time. So I really get to know them. So I'm just like, this sounds like what you've done in the past. When things get challenging, you want to run away. You don't want to deal with this. And people are, and I'll ask permission before, like, can I share this? Can I be open to, are you open to, and most of my clients are, because that's what they've come for. So, it's really just looking at it as not as a negative, but looking at it as, oh, let's explore this. This is exciting. Like, because then I'm thinking we're getting to the root. It didn't work before, because a lot of people have tried different things before they're coming to me. And so then I'm like, let's explore what's the resistance about.
Okay, that was excellent. So we've got the beginning of the journey is the storytelling, the invitation, the safe space, the come on in, maybe there's a really nice connection here and let's explore a little bit there. And then you took us through a little bit of the sort of setting expectations and bringing people along. And what I loved about what you just shared with us is that you're not like catching people, you're carrying with them, you're walking with them, and you're not, being sort of judgmental or harsh about that, which can really put people off, right? So beautiful, thank you. And now we come towards the end of the journey to Andrea, who has some wisdom for us about How do you help people stay engaged with you, and what kinds of encouragement do you give to be able to build from there, either by referrals or repeat business or maybe additional programs? How do you work with the it's really not the end of the journey, right? It's really more of a loop.
It's the heroine's journey, not the hero's journey. The hero has a destination and it's complete. The heroine's is circular, it keeps going and has different circles. You know, the first thing that I want to just really highlight is how much care there is in this room right now on this panel. Like there's a real caring about the client, the customer, you know. And so when I think about this part of the journey, I have things that I offer that have endings, and the incubator is one of them. It runs from October 1st to the end of February, and it's a deep space where women are writing or um, developing programs, working on their business, or working on something within themselves. And something, I'm going to use an example of something that happened a few years ago. It was a group that had really gone deep, and I was having things wind up. And in this particular incubator, I offered a silent writing space on Zoom every morning from October 1st until the end of February. And women would come, and whenever they wanted to drop in, and they would write or do some creative project for an hour. And then I opened the space for them to stay and share things for the next half hour. And this was a group that really shared a lot. They shared what they were working on, they shared the ups and downs of their lives. And I thought, oh my gosh, where's the bridge of connection? There isn't going to be another incubator until October 1st. How am I going to, like, I care about the women, you know, and there are always like 20 to 30 women in an incubator. What do I do? So I had the inspiration, and I feel like this is the message is what is the bridge of connection that you offer in between programs or at the end of a series of coaching? And they may not want to go through another round of coaching or something else with your services. Well, what do you do? Do you just walk away and leave everyone? So I decided to start a public Facebook group that I called the Incubator of Free Creativity Community, where I would, at the beginning of the month, post 7 days of some journal prompts, the way that I had been doing in the incubator. And I offered silent writing on Zoom the first week of the month. And so as a transition, and I guess let me just say one other thing. I used to do the incubator twice a year, and it was for 4 months at a time. And so this was also a transition where women who had been in the incubator repeatedly all of a sudden had a longer time period between this connection into the next one. And so I just started to create some touchstone places for them so that if they wanted to drop in for silent writing, they had 7 days a month as an opportunity instead of 30. I posted a creativity prompt. I posted a place where, and I still do this, where they can share something that's an event or something that they're doing, their website, whatever, to be visible. And so I feel like really everything that I offer, I look for some kind of touchstone of a bridge of connection. And just as Joanne and Cassandra were saying, I'm listening to what people need. So if there's something I'm offering and it's that people want more connection, I think, is there something I could offer, or is there a resource I can guide them to? Because sometimes that's the best way, is to guide them to someone or something else. So I don't know how long I've been talking, but I'll just pause there.
Yeah, thank you. So I think I have two thoughts about that. One is Ginny herself has this 100-day what does she call it? The 100-day group, the 100-day.
Next 100 days,
Okay, so
something
at the
like that.
beginning of every year, she has
Yeah.
a little more than 3-month process with which is similar to what you just described.
Mhm.
And the benefit of that is, yeah, we kind of get to learn from each other, tell your story a little bit. You don't have to do it every single day, but it's I think calling that a bridge is a really beautiful way to describe it because, it doesn't take a lot of effort on the part of the practitioner, right? Because you're facilitating and opening space for people to share, right?
Mhm. Yeah, and I think that's an important part also is to look at how much time and energy does it take? What are your skills? What is it that you offer already? And uh, we can listen to Cassandra about women who are overgiving, overdoing, over, the whole busy woman thing. So it's not about that. It's about finding the thing that you can offer. And hey, an hour of silent writing 7 days a week, I use it to do my own writing. I'm like, okay, I open the room, I have an hour there, and then I have 15 to 30 minutes that I stay for anyone who wants to share anything.
So I'm going to open this back up to all four of us as we begin to wrap this up. And my question is, how do we nurture ourselves as the business or the brand so that we're not giving too much in all of this? Because we get so caught up in, I want you to enjoy this journey. I want you to get everything you expect out of it. How do we make sure that we're getting value for value right back? Does anybody have any tips and tricks about making sure that we don't overgive, as you just said, kind of a segue?
Uh, I'll just offer like boundaries, like just having really good boundaries. We talk about boundaries, with other people, but boundaries with ourselves. I just had a session with one of my coaches, and this was all about boundaries. Hey, like, when are you going to put yourself in your schedule? You know, where are you going to put yourself in your schedule? Um, yeah, so just just getting really clear on what you actually want, how you want it to look, how you want to feel, and just setting boundaries and keeping them. Like, it's a practice, at least for me anyway. Very much of practice to keep them. But yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with Joanne on that. And that's why, like, on my thing, like, the structure, this is how much, like, if we go over a little bit or something like that, but having that structure, but also recognizing my own capacity. I mean, that is what I'm teaching my clients is my capacity. So, I don't even remember. Like, if I'm not feeling well, not pushing past that and saying, okay, yeah, we have a session today at, 8 o'clock, but I have a headache or I'm just not feeling well, like being okay and just telling them. And clients are just so like, they're just like, okay, because that gives them also permission, to be open and to listen. And like I said, I'm teaching a lot about listening to your body and not pushing past your capacity and everything and recognizing what you need. Don't start a session if you're hungry or you haven't hydrated so it's really nourishing yourself because you're going to have like all of us are very, like Andrew was saying, very caring, very spiritual, all of that stuff. And to get those downloads and those insights means I've had to nourish myself and take care of myself. If I'm not doing that, the session is not going to be beneficial. Let me tell you, for my client, like they said, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah. I'm moving slowly or quickly in the moment from working with solopreneurs, entrepreneurs to build quizzes and assessments that act as lead magnets or progress measurement for, coaching. And I'm moving from that into larger corporations. And what I'm realizing and in working with my own coach, my own strategy coach, is that I have been pricing my services so that people can benefit from it. And it's a lot of money for them, but it's not really, in the amount of increment that I put into it, it's not really nurturing my practice, my, business. I usually don't make very much from those kinds of projects. So what I'm learning now is to package it in a way that I can build in all of the programs and services that I really need to provide in order to do an even better job of this end product that I'm providing. And that doesn't mean I need to stop selling to small businesses, but it means I need to package it differently and only offer, where I don't get so caught up in, well, here, let me just build all these graphics for you because we need them and I can do it quickly. You need to set that kind of boundary, I think, too.
The other piece I'll add to it is that I've learned to create more space in my schedule. And it's funny because I have a cold today. I'm not feeling 100%.
While you're out.
And I didn't have clients, but I had 3 commitments to groups. And what I did was I just didn't add anything else into my schedule. And because I create space in my schedule, I took naps throughout the day. So I slept for an hour and a half before we came on the call tonight. And so that is another way that I've learned to not pack my schedule. And if I've noticed that there's just a time period where there are things, let's just say out of my control, that a lot is landing at once, then I look and start taking things off my schedule where I have control over it. So creating more space to rest, to wander, to be creative, and to listen to my body. Yeah.
Bravo. Does anybody have any other closing thoughts about the whole idea of being on our own journeys and bringing our customers and clients into the fold?
I just want to, Ellen, piggyback on what you were saying about the whole pricing. And I think that is so important too, because a lot of times we want to help, so many people and we don't necessarily price as much time as we're putting in, which we never could because we're these creative beings that put a lot of time and energy. And so I've learned too also to have, okay, let me have a donation based type of thing, or let me have a heart centered. And then, but if people are going to work with me one to one, because that's going to require more capacity, more time, then it's a different price set. So having those different price sets has helped to honor me not to feel a certain way, because I'm like, but it's not them, it's me, it's me like saying, okay, I want to, so I'm going to price this and now I'm mad, so it's being able to give and come from that capacity, and also like Andrea was saying, also like, yeah, creating space in the schedule, yeah, has been very beneficial for me.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. This has been really magnificent. I've enjoyed it. I learned something. And thank you for sharing your wisdom, your heart, your processes with us. And to everyone who's joining us live or watching the replay, thanks for being part of this supportive, as you can see, and purpose-filled community. If you'd like to learn more about how to get involved in our Zoom or in-person gatherings, there's one coming up at the end of each month in Columbia, Maryland. Or you want to find out about the On Purpose Woman magazine, just head over to www.opwgc, On Purpose Woman Global Community.com. And we'd love to connect with you again soon. So until next time, stay inspired, stay authentic, stay connected, and stay on the journey. And we can give a hand for ourselves. Yay, us. On the spotlighted panel.